Neuro Creatives Podcast with Josh Crafford.
We did not have butlers
or fancy dinners.
or fancy dinners. And I'm sure you and I both ended up in fancy dinners over the course of our lives. And we're like, oh, which one of these forks do I use? There's 15 forks here, right? Oh, it's okay. Just use it from the outside. But the thing is, nothing's going to happen. The fork police are not going to come.
Welcome to the Neuro Creatives Podcast with your neurodivergent host, Josh Crafford. This is a positive podcast where we believe in no judgment of self and of others. We remove the societal stigmas of can't and don't by focusing on strengths, mental wellness, and empowerment. Together, we are building a culture of safety and inclusion where no one has to mask.
Can you hear me?
Ah, yes. I love it. Yeah.
Nice. All right, baby.
All right. We haven't seen each other in decades.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Yeah. It was your wedding.
Right.
And then even before that, it was probably 10 years before that one time. And, I am so excited for this. I love this.
Yeah, this is kind of weird, man.
Totally. No, this is like the Twilight Zone. I wanted first initial reaction of like, dude, I haven't seen you in so long. All right. Welcome to Neuro Creatives. I'm so excited for this episode. I'm joined here by Nathan Scalzone. I know him as Nate. Nate and I grew up together. So Nate is one of my oldest best friends that we have gone through some stuff together. Nate has also found himself very successful in the area of his passion, which is music. I could never hang out with Nate without, oh, dude, I found this song, or, oh, listen to this, or, oh, hey, I compilated this, or let me bust out my little keyboard. And it was just so inspiring to watch your brain fire up and get excited whenever it was anything about music. And now I love the fact that you are the director of artistic operations, drum roll, pun intended, at Hartford Symphony Orchestra. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Oh boy, what does that mean? Well, it means that I'm responsible for the artistic operations of an entire symphony. And the thing about a symphony orchestra, and the thing about music in general, is it has to be recreated. It only exists in time, in the moment it's created, it's recreated. Like if you look at the art behind you, that's something you can stick up on a wall and it's going to be there. If you want to hear music, you've got to hear some sort of recreation of it, whether you're listening to a recording or online, or you're going, which I hope you do, to a concert. And the thing that's very special about a concert is just think about what it takes for that to happen. A lot of people are involved into making what amounts to an hour and a half, 2 hours of moments in time that hopefully get ingrained in your hippocampus and you carry with you. So yeah, I'm involved in making it happen.
Okay, you said something that should be either a title of a book or on a t-shirt or both, but music is in the moment or music lives in the moment. Kind of like
it exists only in time.
Exists only in time. There you go. Okay, I know someone that can help write books. So when you're ready, let me know.
Okay.
It's funny. This seems to be a reoccurring theme as like, okay, what's kind of a tagline or what's a book title or a t-shirt? Yeah, I think that's right now. And we're like 5 minutes into this?
Yeah, right. It's great. Well, and it's true. It only exists in time. And the unique thing about music is it alters your experience of time and it changes. I mean, of course, people listen to music a lot for a mood. They want to vibe. They want to pick me up. They're on their way to work and they want to rock out, or they want to get psyched up, or they've had a bad breakup and they want something to commiserate with. And that's the wonderful thing. If you go to a concert, you really let yourself go. You sit in a chair with maybe some friends and a whole lot of strangers, and you all experience this thing together. And the time passes, but the passage of time is entirely different because music just has that effect on people. If you think about it, if you're locked in a closet and the lights are turned off and you're in your own sort of solitary confinement. Think about the difference in time if you're doing that in silence, if you're doing that listening to music, doing that listening to an alarm clock go off. If you had 60 seconds to do each of these, I guarantee you'd say the music one went by very fast, the silence took a long time, and the alarm clock drove me nuts. That must have been 2 minutes. You're lying to me.
Okay. Nate, I love you, man. Seriously, like every time we talk,
I
there are
love you too, man.
there are so many aha moments and so many like connection points. And okay, so when you were talking, I flash back to Shawshank Redemption, where I think it's Andy locks himself in the prison's office and plays a record, music, and everybody in that loses themselves in the moment. They all forget that they're in prison, and it was music.
It was Mozart.
It was Mozart.
Yeah.
More specifically.
Yeah.
And then you also said when you're at a concert, you're sitting with your friends surrounded by strangers. But as soon as, and if it's singing, you can sing. I doubt people get up and sing along with symphony orchestra, but that would be fun. Maybe we could work on that. At a concert, when they start playing everybody's favorite song or popular song, you're no longer sitting with strangers. You're sitting with 1,000 other people that know the lyrics, that the energy is contagious, and you're looking around at strangers, yelling at the top of your lungs, jamming along, and everybody's smiling at everybody else, and it's kumbaya, and it's freaking beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I'll tell you what's even better is when you've got somebody in there that doesn't know it, that doesn't know. So for example, if I were to take you to hear Rachmaninoff's Second Symphony, I'm pretty sure you haven't heard it, and I'm pretty sure it'll knock your socks off. There's so much in the repertoire, and the repertoire keeps developing and developing. But that's my advice, especially to newer concert goers who aren't like as familiar with classical music as they are with their favorite bands and stuff, is just go to anything, because it's a thing about music. People want to hear what they know. People want to hear what they like because they're going to be guaranteed to have a good time. And I encourage people to take a risk, take a chance. I've never been disappointed. And it's the same for popular music as well. I had never heard Taylor Swift until recently. I checked it out and I said, okay, this kid's got the goods. This is a great musician and she's making great music. The same thing can happen even if you're hearing something that was written 100 or 200 or 300 years ago. The thing about a lot of that music is it is timeless. It transcends trends. It goes beyond it. It's perennially beautiful. And when you hear that many musicians making music in ensemble, it's going to be very powerful and it'll affect you. And it's wonderful to have a brand new experience just immersed in that artistic language.
Okay. Again, you're giving me goodies. But it's like, I've never heard anybody say, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but take a risk on classical music. So there's a lot of studies that are going on, and especially if you're on TikTok or Instagram or something like that, where you're seeing these videos that pop up where the music plays right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. And they say, oh, if you have ADHD, this music helps to calm you or center you or balance you or something. But I've always needed to listen to classical music in order to study, because I need something drowning out the external noise. But if there are lyrics in it, then my brain is like, oh, what are they saying? Or something else. So I also need to look up Rachmaninoff's Second
Symphony.
Symphony. Okay. Yeah. But as you were talking, I don't know why, but I got goosebumps, right? It was literally because I could put myself in an audience where, again, it's just you're moved by the music. And there's things now where they're doing, what is it, sound therapy? I don't know if you know anything about that or not, but it's different chimes or different things that, it's the wavelengths that go through our bodies.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me started. It's like, look,
Go.
we've just recently discovered gravitational waves in the universe, and the closest thing we can equate them to is sound waves. I think that we've discovered that most black holes are vibrating at around B flat or C, like 57 octaves below middle C, but it's a C nonetheless, which I just find interesting. But yeah, the unique thing about sound is that it's pressure, it's waves, it's a physical phenomenon. And Pythagoras was figuring this out when he was figuring out triangles. And so was Plato. They quickly realized that a fifth was cool. When you have a root and a fifth together, you make what we call like a power chord.
I am musically challenged. What is a root and a fifth?
So a root talks about, yeah, this is interesting. Going back to Theory 101. So the root is, okay, let's do the sound of music. Do, a deer, a female deer, right?
Ray, drop a golden sun. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's going up the notes of the scale, of any given scale. So do is the root of the scale. Sometimes it's called the tonic, which is interesting. But it's the state, it's home, it's repose, it's where the music's central home base is. And through classical music and other music, a root is also sometimes called a one. Like there's a lot of online videos about a bunch of 1-4-5 songs. That means they're playing the 1, the 4, and the 5. Like for example, Louie Louie, 1-1-1, 4-4-5-5-5, 4-4. That's it. So it's
that is the
fa,
best. That right there, that is the best description or connection it's ever been put for me. So because people will do the Louie Louie, but the 1-1-1, 4-4, 5-5-5. It's like, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, those are just roots of the scale. That's the do, fa, and so. 1, 4, and 5.
I never knew that. That is awesome.
And that's prevalent throughout a great majority of popular music and classical music as well. A lot of the stuff Mozart and before is really based on that sort of a structure in one way or another. They find their ways around it and all. But so do pop musicians. You've got to make a way to make it unique. But the point of the matter is it's timeless. It's ingrained in our bodies. It's ingrained in our universe. And it's something that we respond to regardless. In the 20th century, a lot of musicians were taking out that sort of harmonic structural element. It was largely a reaction to World War I, which was the first mechanized, industrialized war, where it was just mass destruction. Think about the Battle of the Somme, which was bloodier than our entire Civil War. And our Civil War was pretty damn bloody. People got sort of taken aback by unchecked humanity. And they started like, oh, here's the pie chart of music. Here's rhythm. Here's melody. Here's harmony. Let's take out melody for a minute, or let's take out harmony and see what happens. And so you had these things called 12-tone music, atonal music, even aleatoric music, which is.
Do you have examples that you could share? Or
well, the point is nothing I could sing.
Okay, that's great. That helps, right?
Because there's no melody there. So it was a movement in the early to mid 20th century that passed anyway.
Thankfully.
There were other sort of things that were happening. You know, academicism became really prevalent, and a bit of a classism thing happened because music progressed through what started in in modern Western history. We have a lot of academic notes and studies of the Renaissance, then through what we call the Baroque era, which is 1600s. Then we get into the classical era, and then the Romantic era. Now, just a brief explanation of this sort of a thing. I'm lifting from myself, lifting from the philosopher Hegel. So Hegel didn't really care for music. He had this description about art, visual art, but I'm applying it to music. He said that art generally in its trends will progress through 3 eras: a symbolic era, a classical era, and a romantic era. In the symbolic era, medium dominates the idea. Meaning, okay, I've got these 2 rocks. What can I do? Knock them together. Okay, so now the art I'm going to create is largely dominated by I'm knocking these 2 rocks together. So it'll be largely rhythmic. Okay, great. And then things get added. In the classical era, the medium and the idea are in an equilibrium. So the audience understands the medium very well, it has its own ideas and interpretations and expectations, and the artist is generally finding a good balance there. And then in the romantic era, the idea finally comes to dominate the medium. So that means I'm going to have 1,000 rocks, and I'm gonna spread them out all over town, and all the people are gonna clap with me, and we're gonna make the symphony of 1,000 rocks. And it's like when you finally have the medium mastered enough, so you bend it to your will entirely, and you're no longer a slave to whatever the medium ultimately provided. Music went through a similar progression. We had just basic tonalities that were happening. First, it was just monophony, somebody singing a tune. Then there was a tune and somebody sang something under it. And then somebody took that something under it and said, hey, let's do this. And we have counterpoint going on. And then like, let's do two of these things. And now we've got two of these things. And, it just kept growing and growing and growing. So by the time you get to the romantic era, you're having things like symphonies of 1,000, like Mahler's symphonies, people having really big orchestras and really big symphonies. And the understanding of melody was entirely there, and everything was at everybody's disposal. And this is also a period when the arts were very well funded. This is the period when the Habsburg monarchy still lived, the Tsar still lived. People were still funding this stuff for the pride, etc. Then the war happened. And right before the war, Stravinsky was writing these big pieces. After the war, during the war, he's writing things for 8 people. Now, at that same time that classical music sort of reached its apex in its progression from the beginning of time through the early 20th century, we have the advent of plastic, electricity, and essentially Elvis Presley. Now we start back again with music at the symbolic, because now there's a whole new thing: the electric guitar, the electric bass. You got this guy Ludwig making drum kits. So things are starting to change. And so classical music continued on, but at the same time, popular music really took off and it hit the masses. And classical music also had this period where it was part of the class wars of like the 50s and the 60s and even in the 70s, where you were supposed to come, you're supposed to sit down politely, you're supposed to wear what you're supposed to wear, you're supposed to know when to clap, and it became largely unapproachable. To me, this is the same way I view yoga. Like I find yoga entirely unapproachable because I don't get it. I don't know what it is. And if I go to a class, I'm going to feel like an because someone's going to say downward facing dog. I don't know what that means. And I don't know the way in. It's like, I feel like I need a private person in a private room to talk me through some of this stuff, so I don't go and just join a thing where it's like all are welcome. Bull. I'm going to go there and I'm going to look like a schmuck. I'm going to be wearing the wrong thing. I'm not going to know when to clap. And I don't, I mean, my mantra's gone. I've got the wrong chi. I brought the wrong chi, so I'm not going to know what the hell to do. Classical music has the same thing, that it's really, it's still working to shed. A lot of places saying, wear what you want, come as you are, clap whenever you want. We love it. And that's actually how it used to be.
Can I jump in there for a second? So where you were saying take a risk on classical music and getting people to go to the orchestra. So if I've never been before and you're my guide and you say, hey, Josh, we're going to do this. Here's how you don't look like an walk me through that. Can I show up in jeans and a t-shirt, or should I wear khakis and a blazer?
You absolutely should wear whatever you want. You can show up in jeans and a t-shirt, and you can grab a beer at the bar, and you can take your beer in with you, and you can go and sit and listen, and you can clap whenever you feel like it. And I think a lot of orchestras and artists are doing that now.
Okay.
We can't get the message out loud enough. Now, there will be a lot of people that will say, I'm gonna dress to the nines. And it's like, that's an option too. It's what you want out of it and how you want to feel. I mean, some people are there because they're on a really hot date and they're like, hey, I'm going to dress up. I'm dressing to impress my significant other over here. And that's fine. It's sort of a situation where it's like, really the gamut is welcome to experience whatever they want.
I would be worried about, there's a break in the music, which is a intentional pause to build drama. And I would go, woo! And then everybody turns and looks at me and my face turns bright red and I sink down in my chair and I'm like, okay, this sucked. Um,
Yeah, it happens. For example, a symphony or a concerto usually have movements, right? And that's where those pauses come in. So, for example, a typical concerto would have a fast, slow, fast structure. So you got a fast movement, last 5 to 10 minutes, maybe more. Slow movement, same thing. Then a fast movement, same thing. And a lot of the times, these composers are swinging for the fences on all of these movements. And
mm,
so when they end, you're like, hell yes. And what's happening, gratefully, more and more, in my experience, is people are clapping and in those moments, you know,
okay, good.
because because they're moved. And that's all you want. I've witnessed people clap and then not everyone's clapping because a lot of people have been trained not to.
Yeah,
Right? There was that thing in the 20th century where you weren't supposed to clap till all the movements were done. It was the
right.
very, very end. It's not the case anymore. And so you'll get like some applause and
Yeah.
it'll sound like a spattering, but a conductor will turn around and say, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to take this back, and you were saying Taylor Swift. So you can go to the orchestra and
Mhm.
treat it like you're going to a Taylor Swift concert, as if there's part of it that moves you, it's okay to cheer and acknowledge, hell yeah, I like that part. Keep going.
Yes.
Okay, I love it.
Yes.
I'm more comfortable
Absolutely.
now to go.
Yeah. 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 And that's why I say take a risk on classical music, because for some people that feels like a risk.
Yeah.
It's just like when you're going to these fancy dinners. You and I, and we know how we grew up. We did not have butlers uh,
Or fancy dinners.
or
Yeah.
fancy dinners. And I'm sure you and I both ended up in fancy dinners over the
Yeah.
course of our lives.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, which one of these forks do I use? There's
Oh,
15
yeah.
forks here, right? And then they say, oh, it's okay, just use it from the outside. But the thing is, nothing's gonna happen. The fork police are not going to come
Yeah.
and say you're using the wrong fork.
The clapping police will not come. The cheering police will not come. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
The attire police will not come. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. So I'm outside of Atlanta, and we have the Fox Theater here, and my wife and I have season tickets to the Broadway plays that come through.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't have a blazer growing up. I didn't have a button-up shirt growing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. My wife and I just talked about that the other day. So I will wear typically a black t-shirt and a blazer over it, and that's my comfort zone. I can wear a suit and tie. I have a suit and tie, but no, my comfort zone is if I can be in a t-shirt. And she got her degree in fashion and merchandising, so it's like some days I will be on my way out the door. This was before we got to work virtually, and she's like, you can't wear that belt with those things, or shirt with the pants, or whatever it was. And
Yeah.
I've asked her, I'm like, look, if I am running out the door and I look like I'm late, just say, bye, honey, have a great day. And it's like, if I don't have time to come back and change it, I don't want to go through the day paranoid that,
Right. These are the
anyway.
wrong shoes. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going through this day. It's happening. This is happening.
And I'm going to be confident,
Yeah.
I'm wearing clothes and they're clean. Let's go with that. Okay. I want to kind of tie this back in, or I'm sorry, were you in the middle of something that you wanted to finish?
Well, I guess I would just conclude this whole sort of ramble with you can wear whatever you want, you can clap whenever you want. And the thing, however, about classical music is it is an extraordinarily high form of artistic expression. And the best thing about it is you don't have to do a damn thing but sit down. So what I would say is be as comfortable as you need to be. Know that you're welcome. Know that everybody who's worked really hard to put this art on is going to be thrilled to see you however you come. And just be ready for a really wonderful experience. Yeah. Be ready to take in something that is going to move you, and be ready to listen.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what type of music did you listen to growing up? Because I want to make that connection that, hey, if you're into heavy metal, if Van Halen was your jam back in the day, the orchestra is still for you today, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Music is music. Full stop. Whether it's classical music or popular music of any genre, they're all connected. So when I was growing up, I did listen to a bunch of classical music because, as you may remember, a lot of the times in the summer, my parents shipped me off to live with the grandparents in DC, and my grandfather had a great classical music collection. And so I would listen to his records. But I remember listening to Vivaldi's Four Seasons and going, this is metal. Like, this is heavy metal, because there were so many connections. So when I was growing up, aside from classical music, yeah, I loved heavy metal. I would say I loved melodic metal and the hard rock genres more specifically. Like, I liked Iron Maiden. I still like Iron Maiden. I am going to see Iron Maiden at the end of this month. And yeah, I liked Van Halen. I liked hard rock.
I was Van Halen. I couldn't think of Iron Maiden off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but yeah.
yeah. I loved guitar rock, for sure.
Yeah.
I also loved the Monkees, and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and just all of it. What we now call classic rock.
Sadly.
Sadly, it's like stuff I was listening to in college is now classic rock. But hey, this is how this goes. But yeah, that was probably my go-to popular music jam.
Yeah.
At that period of time, R&B didn't really resonate with me very much. It's come to do so now, as I've taken the time to give it a due listen. I think that whatever your musical taste is, there's always room for more. And I think that's a thing about our society in general. In general, our society likes to find what they like and stick with it. When I was putting myself through my master's degree, I used to work at a liquor store, and I came to know a lot about wine, a lot about liquor, a lot about beer. And not through tasting. If I tasted everything in the shop, I'd be dead. But just through reading and understanding.
Yeah.
But people would come in looking for their favorite wine, and I would say, "What is it?" And they would say, "Well, it's a Chianti. It's this Chianti, or it's this Merlot, or it's this Burgundy." So then I would go and walk the shelves with them, and I would say, "Life is a journey, man." And it's like, why do the same thing you've always done?
Yeah.
There are new areas to explore. There are new journeys to take. And why stop? You only have this one life. Just keep trying new things. Keep exploring. If you don't like it and you've tried it and you don't like it, well, now you know. And you can move on to something else. If I just like American cheese and I know I like American cheese and I never try Swiss cheese, I'm missing out on a whole thing. So, yeah, I feel the connection is back to our 1-4-5 thing. Generally, all music has that sort of, there's this guy named Schenker. He's called Schenkerian analysis, actually. But you can kind of do a 1-4-5 analysis on just about all music, whether it's classical or popular. There are certain song structures, but like a typical song, a rock song, a pop song, a Taylor Swift song, an Iron Maiden song, is going to follow what we would call in classical music sonata form. When I'm trying to talk to people about sonata form, I'm like, okay, in sonata form, you have an exposition that's repeated, then a development, then a recap, a recapitulation, and a coda. So I'm like, okay, you got your A, your B, your bridge, and your guitar solo, and then it comes back when you got your chorus and all that stuff. There's a connection between it all.
Is what you're describing now, how you were saying Vivaldi's Four Seasons is heavy metal?
Yeah.
Okay, because I wrote that down because I'm like, all right, you got to break that down for me.
Well,
but you might have just done that.
No. There's a lot of similarities between certain. I have to leave out the genres that are the aspects of heavy metal that are kind of largely noise and screaming, and lean more towards those that try to make a bit more music and sing. For example, a classic one would be Metallica, like the most famous, or even Megadeth. Like it's less so Slayer, but because the guy usually screams, but the music behind it is really music. But there are just some that it's just like, blah, 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 and like, did you just say I gargle knives and eat rats? I don't know, but I'm talking about so in the Baroque era, especially, you had Baroque means kind of like ornate and florid, and if you see something Baroque, it's very decorated. It's just decorous. You had sort of the onset of the concerto, and like this guy's basically going to take a solo, and it's going to be really hard and really amazing, and that's directly translates to your guitar solos of metal and rock and roll. Even it's like you've got a song that's going along, and then all of a sudden there's this break where this guy just shreds. And it's not noise. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's like, how did he do that so fast with those arpeggios? You know, you do the same thing in classical music. It's the same thing. It translates right over. Your guitar hero was born in the 1600s, you know, violin. There's a passage in I think the Spring Concerto of the Four Seasons where you've just got this dun, 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 then the violin goes and underneath it's going and then they all come together and it's just like rocking out.
You are headbanging.
Right,
you're now headbanging
to classic music. To this stuff. Yeah. And let me tell you something about the Italians. Vivaldi's an Italian. But this brings me back. You know, when people were listening to operas, the Italians would go to the operas and it would be just a picnic. And they would be eating and drinking and talking through the whole thing until their favorite aria came on. You did like, oh, here's my favorite spot, right? And then they'd shut up their family, you know, or they'd try to shut up their family. Well, they do their best. I want to hear this a little bit. Yeah. That brings me back to you can clap and sing and dance and you can enjoy it however you want to experience it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot of connection between all this music, even the power. So the thing that's wonderful about a lot of pop and rock and heavy metal is there's power, there's volume. When a guitar player plays a power chord, that is got a lot of amplifiers behind it. It's got a lot of magic and a lot of overtones. But the thing is, that's also what a symphony orchestra can do. But it's not one violin. It's 28 violins all playing. And that's just a lush, big sound. And here's something you got to know. There's this thing called the overtone series. It's the harmonic series. It's where this 1-4-5 stuff comes from. But in every note, there's another note. And if you play a church bell, bong, probably you're hearing a higher note, an overtone that comes through. So if I play a root C, there's this thing called sympathetic vibration. If you're on a guitar and you just play the E string, the bottom E string, all the other strings vibrate. And that's not just, it's not because of the physical motion. It's because they sense the sound. They feel the sound and they start vibrating themselves. The wavelengths excite other wavelengths. So that's where you actually get a major chord. A major chord is simply taking the first 5 overtones and playing them down over octaves.
That's amazing.
It's just, there's all music. It's just like there's black in the color white. You can't see it without it. There's pieces of stuff in all the stuff. There is a connection between all this stuff, and it hits your body the same way it always has since the beginning of time. To experience this sort of music, you're going to be transported, and it's going to be physical and mental. It's just all. It's
and
total.
Emotional, right?
But getting back to where you're saying about like music therapy, I mean, I get it. There are people that do like gong baths, where you get in front of this big gong and somebody whacks it, and that's really physical. That's just like, I'm going to take your chi and take it through a car wash, you know. But there are other things that are even more interesting. The way the brain is hooked up. People who have, like, for example, strokes, they lose their speech ability. A way they get it back is through singing. They can't say, this hurts, I want a Tylenol. But what they can do is say, this hurts, I want a Tylenol.
Okay, so because on like a couple of episodes of American Idol, people would say, I stutter if I don't sing, or I can't vocalize unless I sing. And then they have these beautiful singing voices. And I was always like, how is that? And you just dropped some more knowledge on us to explain that. So
yeah, it's hard to explain. I've only learned this from taking some seminars and understanding like what it is, but it's got something to do with the frontal lobe and the connection between the left and right hemispheres and the different areas of the brain that control different things. But speech and music are different, but the same thing can be accomplished. Yeah.
Speech and music are different. Okay.
Even though it's a communication, even though you're getting it across. But I mean, think about it for a minute. Just look at it realistically. If you just were to read song lyrics, in some cases, they'd probably be pretty boring.
Or nonsensical. Yeah.
Or nonsensical. Or, you know, I was driving in my pink Cadillac my pink Cadillac, my pink Cadillac. And, it's like, like that's not very interesting unless it's music,
Right. Yes. And if you're having a conversation and someone starts talking in song lyrics that you don't know as a song, you're going to be like, dude, you okay?
Yeah. Exactly.
So you had mentioned earlier plastics, electricity, and Elvis. Was Elvis that impactful, or you were just throwing it out there as a name and fun?
Let me refill on my water. I'll be right back.
Please.
Here's the deal with Elvis. Before we even talk about Elvis, we have to acknowledge white privilege. We have to acknowledge that Elvis was playing a lot of music, hyped up and whiteified, if you will, that was created by Black musicians.
Mm.
So there's that. And there wouldn't be the American rock and roll without the blues, and the blues is Black.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's that. So this is a time of acknowledgement. So you've got to acknowledge that. Now, that said, let's talk about Elvis. Elvis was an absolute pioneer. I mean, think about all the things he did, but he was the first real superstar. He was the first American Idol. I mean, he did it all, be a celebrity, have it mess you up, get fat, die on too many drugs. And he was the first one to go through the ringer. That's just society, interesting society stuff, the evolution of American society anyway. But what he also did, though, was take rock and roll and make it a thing. Mm. So think about Hound Dog, which was, again, not written by him. It was other people, but this is 1-4-5 stuff. But with plastic and electronics, you got two things. You got electric guitars and amplifiers. Mm. And soon people realize if you poke a couple holes in your little amp, you've got some distortion. Mm. Before distortion pedals were even born. And things happen just with Black Sabbath, Tony Iommi had his finger cut off so he could only reach these two, and he invented the power chord.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
He intentionally had his finger cut off.
No, it was an accident.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm like, wait. I'm like, that's some dedication.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I'm so hardcore that I'm going to cut off my finger to invent the power chord. Yeah, no, that was it. That was a mother of invention thing.
But because his finger was cut off, he invented the power chord.
Yeah, he could do what he could do, and he's like, "This sounds cool," and you know what? It sounded cool. There are arguments about it, but Black Sabbath is the best known earliest heavy metal band. Some people say it's others. I'm not going to get into that debate, sure. But they were the ones that really brought it mainstream. But Elvis, I view Elvis as like the advent of American popular music, of rock and roll. And rock and roll doesn't happen without electricity. Rock and roll doesn't happen without amplifiers. You can have an acoustic guitar, and there have been acoustic guitars since almost the dawn of time. Going back to the ancient Greeks, they had lyres. You go to old Russia, they're playing the balalaika. Everybody's got some kind of string instrument they got by taking a string and dragging it over a sound hole in the neck. You can go like this and that about the Chinese instruments, etc. But with an amplifier, a guitar that you can plug into it, you've got electronic music. You've got power. You can play louder than the instrument will actually do. So, orchestra, you've got 28 violins. That can fill a concert hall. Also, one violin can if everyone's quiet. But at a rock and roll concert, people are usually not quiet. And it's like, well, if you go, bang, you can outdo everybody with your wall of sound that's coming at you. What's really interesting is the birth of rock and roll, I view as the birth of taking this pendulum that's been going, that's been swinging anyway, that went from symbolic to classical to romantic. It started the process over again, because all of a sudden going dan-dan-dan, dan-dan, dan-dan-dan, that was cool again, because we had never heard it like that. It was a new instrument. It was a new medium. It was a new way to hear the same old stuff we've been hearing for 1,000 years, but it was a new way to reach.
Right.
And I think that popular music's gone through, actually in more accelerated ways, and different ways, but similar phases. If you compare like Elvis to the Beatles, then to something like Radiohead, where you see this like progression of things that it's more and more complex, than just straight, but it's always got that root 145 something about it, but it's becoming more and more interesting. And this is the thing, this technological evolution has continued to grow. We didn't stop at electricity and plastic. We've gone straight into computers. People used to work really, really hard to get a synthesized sound. Now it's a press of a button. A lot of humans now just have access to, without having to do a lot of work to get there, sounds that are just sold, ready, available on the market. And you can be like, here's a beat.
Yep.
It reminds me of when we were kids and I had my little keyboard.
Yeah.
And we were making up songs, and you'd hit that one thing where it go ticket and and we would make up silly songs because there was a rhythm right there for us.
Right.
That was a new thing. People used to have to like get a bunch of people together to go, you had to actually do it. There's like, I've got this now. It's a button.
Yep.
But it was the beginning of a new period of musical expression. And what's neat now is towards the end of the 20th century and certainly now in the 21st, there's a melding of genres happening. Classical music, rock and roll music, popular music. Music is actually kind of coming together in this period of time that we're in right now. We've all grew up with films that have amazing soundtracks. Think of anything by John Williams or his sort of electronic counterpart to a degree, Hans Zimmer.
What would some examples of that be? Those aren't familiar names to me.
So John Williams is Indiana Jones. Bum, ba, bum, bum,
okay.
Bum,
Gotcha.
bum, 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 bum.
This is the Nate. We would do this for hours and it would just be whatever topic we were passionate about, but it comes to life. Nate brings it to life. Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah, and Hans Zimmer, he did Interstellar. He did some Batmans, the ones with Christian Bale, and he's done a lot of great stuff. But his stuff tends to be a bit more harmonic and rhythmically driven. He just lets the chords be, but he rocks them out and builds them up. Nevertheless, there's like two different approaches to giving a soundtrack to a movie that adds sort of a musical element. But the fact of the matter is, people grew up with that stuff.
Yeah.
People heard that. People were hearing at the same time rock and roll. People then were having this explosion of genres. We had R&B and rap really, really take hold in the end of this last century and now straight through till today. Soul, country, just there's all these different genres that are essentially ways for people to go ahead and package and sell something. We've also witnessed here a complete destruction of the paradigm, which is actually a tragedy, by way of certain streaming services that have taken away the ability to actually package and sell. People used to sell albums. Now they don't do that anymore. I don't want to bust too hard on some industry or another, but the paradigm has shifted. It's changed. And you can't just sell a CD. It's like you get revenue from being clicked on.
Right. Well, I mean, my car is 2014. It's a great car, still drive it around and has a CD player. My wife's car is new, no CD player. And my son's 14. He doesn't have any CDs, but there is a classic record store in town. And he's like, oh, can we go to the record store? And then he sees that, how much record player is. And he's like, wait, I got to pay how much per a record player and then per a record. And, that record lasts 20 minutes and it doesn't automatically repeat. And it's like, it's.
Yeah. Right. But what it comes with? It comes with all that beautiful art on it. It comes with the stuff from the inside where they get the lyrics and they tell you all about the band and pictures of the tour and this fun stuff.
Oh, I'm not knocking it at all. Yeah. I mean, the record store is like prime real estate right on the corner of Main Street. And it's been there for a long time and it's going to continue to be there. It's fun watching the evolution of things through younger people's eyes who didn't experience it or grow up with it. Right. So it's called Neuro Creatives, the podcast. We were both undiagnosed ADHD and we'd feed off of each other's energy and it was contagious and it was fun and it was a release and we were safe. We didn't judge each other and we'd actually encourage the craziness.
Yeah.
The
yeah.
hyperactivity, the head banging, the going down a rabbit hole of whatever we wanted to do. And I truly valued your friendship. And I don't know if I ever said that. So thank you,
Right back
because
at you, baby.
you were a very safe space where I didn't have to mask, and we didn't have to have a topic. We'd find something fun to talk about and to go and do. And
Yeah. I would just be like, Mom, I'm going to go hang out with Josh. And I would get on my bike.
Yep.
And ride the like 2.5 miles or whatever it is.
Yep.
Down West Meadow Road, up that damn hill.
I know. That was a hill.
Yeah. So I should get some points for that one, like coming to visit you guys, but you had to do it too if you ever came to my house,
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, we would just have a blast.
Yeah.
And
here we are just a couple years later.
I remember just one time we just partied to Weird Al Yankovic's latest. Like, I think it was the one. I'm sure it was the one where it was like, I lost on Jeopardy,
baby.
Yeah, I just remember just jumping on the beds and just partying to that song.
Being goofy. Right. Yeah. Because it was everything that we had to bottle up. We were able to get out all the energy. Yeah. We'd come out, our parents, because our moms were friends, or, so if we visited each other's houses, it's like I'd go and hang out with you in the back room or something, and we come out sweaty from jumping on the bed, and they're like, what are you guys doing? It's like, or they can hear us bang up against a wall or something, and like, everybody okay? It's like,
yeah.
Or you guys go outside. That was the thing. It's like, go outside, go burn off energy. Yeah. And then, we'd come back either covered in mud or some scrapes and bruises or.
Yeah, exactly. But to our parents' point of view, we'd come out a little bit tuckered out, which was good for them.
That was their goal for us.
Yeah. It's true. And it's funny because I was 17 or 16, I think, when the guidance counselor came up to me and said, I think you've got the ADD. And I was like, okay, whatevs, whatever that means.
So I didn't get tested until the pandemic. And it was my wife that said, hey, I know you have dyslexia. Can you get tested for ADHD as well? When I was getting tested, it was over the phone. I was walking around and she's like, are you pacing? And I'm like, yes. And I was clicking a pen and she's like, what is that noise? And I was like, oh, I'm clicking my pen. She's like, can you please stop doing that? I was like, okay, sure. And I always have tons of fidget toys around. So I grabbed a different fidget toy and started playing with that. And she's like, what are you doing now? Did you pick something else up instead of the pen? I'm like, yes. And she's like, okay, we have to technically finish the test, but we don't have to finish the test. It's like, you're diagnosed.
Yeah. This is an open and shut case.
I hope that if there's anybody listening that loves music and is like, what type of job can I have in music? Because I know that there are some parents out there that are probably like, hey, there's no future in music. Don't pursue music. You can do that as a hobby, but not as a job. So I hope you inspired. I know you inspired some people that were like, you know what? No, damn it. I'm going to pursue this. I'm going to keep going. This is my passion. This is in my soul. And it's always been your passion and it's always been in your soul. And I've always respected you for it.
There are so many jobs. There is so much work to be done. Just as I said, I think at the top, it takes so much human capital to bring together the art form that is music that only exists in time. And you may love music. You may want to play an instrument. You may feel like, oh, I'm good at this, but I'm not great enough to be a rock star or a virtuoso or the best actor or anything in show business or the arts, really. But that doesn't mean that you can't be the most integral part of it, because it takes so many people that care about it. And if you care about it and if you love it, music needs you. I'm a composer. I write music. I've written music for a podcast that was just released that's doing okay. And it was a radio play or whatever. And that was fun. And I've written choral compositions. I've written orchestral compositions. I keep writing and I'm happy. And I play in bands and whatever. And I'm able to do my life. there's more to it than just this one particular path that leads in stardom and a Netflix series where they're like, this is where I had hit rock bottom. Yeah.
Right.
And all of that. I mean, from top to tail, it requires people that are interested. If there's a manager, that manager has 1,000 different people working in his office, all doing one thing, booking, organizing the logistics for the tour. Just organizing logistics for a tour has like 10 jobs. You're the hotel advance person. You're the organizer for the instrument cases. You're the stage manager. You're the assistant stage manager. You're the production stage manager. Stagehands. I would recommend getting into being a union stagehand if you can be. You can be an audio engineer. What it takes is caring about it. But, I would say it's sort of like you can go to trade school, learn your craft, and then build up from there. And then it's like eventually you take on your own clients. So there's audio engineering, there's lighting, there's actual stage management and stagecraft and building risers, etc. Everything front of house. We call it front of house and back of house. Front of house is your forward-facing stuff, people from ushers and people welcoming the people in, getting them into their seats, making sure they have a pleasant experience, the bartenders, the whole shebang, the ticket takers. And then there's the people that just make it happen, that make it move. Think about when Taylor Swift or Post Malone goes on tour. There's like 50 buses. It's a cast of 1,000. And so any involvement in the arts is available. If you love the arts, if you love music, you can get involved. And that's what happened to me. I graduated with a degree in classical music composition. And I moved to New York thinking, all right, let's do that. And a week later, 9/11 happened.
Oh.
And the city shut down.
Right.
Country freaked out. But I couldn't get a job in the business. It took me 2 years. I was walking dogs, landscaping in New York, which is hilarious. Maine, we're like landscaping. This is like, here, take this pine cone, spray it gold, and super glue it to that gate. Like, okay, landscaping, done. And yeah. But then I got a job in music management, and I just got started. So what you got to do is just get started somehow, and then get in there. And then if you care, you'll keep going. And there are plenty of opportunities. Ironically, in those days, just after 9/11, start in symphony orchestra management. And I was just a managerial assistant, the lowest rung on the ladder. After a couple of years, I burnt out from it because it was really hard. Well, in the interim, I actually did a stint as the personal assistant to Sir Andre Previn, who orchestrated Porgy and Bess for the movies. And he's a big time guy. He used to conduct the Houston Symphony Orchestra, Oslo Symphony Orchestra. It gives me heart, and I hope it would give the listener heart to know that the possibilities truly are endless, and that the industry is sitting there waiting for you to come along, waiting for you to care, and waiting for you to make a difference, because you can.
Show up in your jeans and t-shirt, grab a beer if you want to, and clap whenever you want to. Everybody that is putting the music together will be appreciative. And if someone in the audience gives you a side eye because you clap at the wrong part, just smile at them and keep clapping.
Damn straight. Because you're the one who gets it. You're the one who gets it.
Right. Yeah. Everybody gets to experience it in their own way. There's rules on this podcast, or in my life in general. It's no judgment of self, no judgment of others. So who are they to look at you side eye because you're enjoying music how you want to enjoy it? Right.
That's right. That's right. There's no limits, no rules. And that's what music is for. That's what art is for. To be consumed, to be enjoyed, to transport you, to take you out of whatever troubles you're in. And for a brief moment of time, exist in union with that art and let it impact you however it needs to. Never, never, never worry about anybody's judgment, because if they're worried about judging, they're the ones that aren't focused on the art.
Ooh, yes. Shame on them. Shame on them.
Yep.
Nate, I love you, brother. Thank you so much for doing this. I know we've talked over the phone a bunch. Great to see you through Zoom, at least.
Yes.
And connect that way. Total respect for you, what you do. And I'm so glad that you have been part of my life. So thank you.
Right back at you. I am so thrilled that I am still part of your life. I'm thrilled that you're still part of mine. And I feel like we just kind of got started, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's our lives, you know.
Yeah.
We always had a lot of good fun. But thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you for letting me speak about music, about classical music in particular, and to encourage people to take a risk on it. If it feels risky, it's worth the risk. Everyone will love you for going, and you will not be disappointed.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you so much for listening. You are honestly the reason that this podcast exists. If you'd like more information on today's guest, please see the show notes. Also, add a comment to let us know your thoughts. And please subscribe.